Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson of drawing with Blizzard Ninja. Now in this lesson, I am going to be diving deep into squash and stretch. So I'm gonna be teaching you guys the 12 principles of animation, but I'll be diving into them one by one according to the way they are in order. So but today I'm gonna start with the squash and stretch, the first law, the first principle. I like calling them laws. Yeah, I like calling them laws, but anyway, they are the principles. So I'm gonna start with squash and stretch. So right now in front of me, I've got the software Krita. All right, as it's indicated over there, Krita. So Krita is it's a very awesome open source software. It's similar to Adobe Photoshop, but then again, it also does have slightly Adobe Animate features. You can animate on it, you can draw on it, you can create your manga, you can do anything on it. Pretty much, you can edit pictures and images, and yeah, the whole 9 yards. All right. So now, what I'm gonna what I'm gonna show you first is how to start a new project. So these are basically the projects that I've been working on in Krita. You know, all the projects that I've been working on and all that. But anyway, yeah. So first of all, you're gonna come to the start menu over here. You're gonna say click on new image, and then from there, you're gonna pick, of course, your resolutions and stuff. Normally, I just leave it like this at default, and of course, you can choose portrait or landscape. So since we're doing animation, we're gonna choose landscape. Landscape is much more effective for animation. We'll say create. Now, right now, it's on a default tab. Like the tab is default, right? So since it's at a default setting, we're gonna change the workspace into an animation workspace because this is just a painting workspace. So, but then before we dive into that, over here you've got your different pencils or your different tools that you use, like your erasers, blending tools, etc. And of course, that's the color wheel. Those are your layers. Your layers are gonna be here, and then these are the extra tools, like the brush, the bucket tool, all these tools, the gradient tool, everything is here. So what we're gonna first do is we're gonna come to window, we're gonna select workspace, and then animation. Now we are in an animation workflow now. All right, we're in an animation workflow. So of course, this is your layer. So whenever I click a layer, it goes to the timeline. So yes, these are the layers. This is the timeline. And then again, this is the onion skin settings. But what onion skin is, it's basically it's basically showing you what's happening in the previous frame and what's going to happen in the next frame. That's basically your onion skin. I will explain all of that in as we go along. So yeah. So then, of course, what you call this thing, this is the speed of how the episode is, of how the video is. And then of course, this button means creating a new layer. This one, it's duplicating a layer. So let's say if I drew this weird wacky shape right there. All right, and then I'm gonna come maybe at frame 6, and then when I just press duplicate, it's gonna be exactly the same. It's gonna be the exact same frame as that. Or if not, I can just add a blank frame. Then if I wanna remove a frame, I remove. So adding new frame, duplicating the frame, and removing a frame. So that's that. And then oh yes, the onion skin. The onion skin. So for instance, let's say I've got this drawing. I'm gonna have this drawing. Then I'm gonna have this drawing. All right, I'm just going nuts. But anyway, I'm gonna start here in the beginning. Then when I switch on that light bulb over there, this light bulb is basically giving me the access or the allowance of the onion skin. It's showing me the onion skin. That's the on and off button of the onion skin. It's basically the toggle of the onion skin. So right now, since we're on the timeline, these are the frames that we're working with. So then when I'm in the middle, the red frame is the previous, the red picked image is the previous frame. It's this frame here. Of course, the middle frame will be black, or the frame that you're on will be black. Like currently when I'm here, this one was black, then the other two are green. So the green means it's an upcoming frame. So as you can see, there's no red at all. It's all, both of them are green. So when I come over here, right now this one is black, but then it's showing this frame over here, you know, showing this one in red. And then when I'm in the middle, it's going to show me the current frame, the future frame that's coming, which is this one, and then the previous frame, which is this one. So it indicates, so future frames are green, past frames are red, and the current frame is black. Always remember that when it comes to onion skin. So what the onion skin does, it helps you with the animation workflow. Like let's say if you want to draw a certain character, like doing a character's head turn, or in fact we're gonna use the onion skin right now with the squash and stretch tutorial that I'm gonna demonstrate. So the onion skin will come in handy for such an activity. But anyway, yeah, that's the onion skin. And then of course there's curves, but don't worry about this. We'll this comes in when you're animating backgrounds and whatnot, but for now it's not important. All right, so now finally all right, now we are in a new frame whatsoever. So we're gonna demonstrate with just something solid, something simple. We're gonna use this frame over here as our base, as our background. All right, so yeah, this is basically our ground. So with the squash and stretch activity that we're gonna do today, I'm going to show you guys how it's done, like how it normally works and stuff. So I'm just gonna use a cube, a circle. All right, so now I'm basically gonna do two things at once. I'm not gonna do straight ahead animation. I'm gonna do pose to pose, which is one of the principles of animation. So I'll be teaching you how to animate in pose to pose, because straight ahead is not bad. It's okay, but I mean, with the second ball exercise, I will show you how straight ahead is worked. But I mean, it just depends on preference. So we're gonna have our beginning frame over here. In fact, let me give the ball a certain color. I'm not gonna give it red or green because we all know the story. Red frame, the previous frame is, well, like on the onion skin, it's red. The future frame, it's green. As you can see, it's even indicated here. Previous previous frames is red. Future frames is green. But then of course you can always change the color. But that's yeah, that's beside the question. I just prefer it that way. So I'm gonna use orange. I'm gonna use orange for the ball. All right. All right. Let me grab the canvas and put it over here. All right. So now we're gonna start. Yeah. So we're gonna start right now. So all right. So this is my start frame. And then I'm gonna add I'm gonna come here to frame 6, right? Add a new frame. Of course, I'm gonna turn on my onion skin, and then I'm gonna make it. Oh, in fact, I can redraw that, but if you wanted to look identically the same, what you can do is you can just duplicate that frame. Of course, remove that, duplicate that, and then just move it to the bottom. By using this tool here, you just move it to the bottom. Again, if you want accuracy, you see, I'm actually diving deep into the entire workflow of how animators do certain activities and how they work. Like I'm diving deep. Now over here, I'm just gonna use pink. And I use pink. It's a very special person's favorite color. But anyway, all right. So I'm gonna use that line as a indicator. So this line is basically our floor. It's basically the flow of where the ball's gonna land. And this pink line, it's the direction of the ball, of where I want the ball to go. But anyway, yes. So we're gonna set that up. I'm gonna put this over, like on top. Of course, I'm gonna have to realign the ball nicely. Whoops, my bad. You come into the first frame. Okay. So this is where we're gonna start. So now, so as you can see, we've got 3 layers. The first layer is the ground. In fact, let's name them so that we don't get lost. I'm gonna call that one ground, and let's give it a color coding. So we're gonna call that one green. We're gonna give that one green. This one, of course, we're gonna give it a purple color since it's a guideline, and we're gonna call it guideline. Guideline. Okay, so that's the ground, the guideline, and then we're gonna call this one ball. I'm gonna call that one ball, and we're gonna give it the orange color. So now at least we know what we're dealing with. And of course, the ground line, let me make it green. Or in fact, I think I should leave it the way it is. It's perfect. It's exactly perfect. Of course, let me get my ball color back. Okay, now I'm just gonna lower the opacity over here. So basically, lowering the opacity, it's just to dim whatever frame that's gonna obstruct you, or that, like, the thing is, you want it on, but then you don't want it to obstruct you. You don't want it to be saturated. You just want it to be there but semi-hidden. So that's what the opacity is for. Then of course, I'm sure you've noticed that if you can check, these 3 layers are not the same. This one has got like a little video icon, and this one doesn't. So these are basically canvas. That one is an animation layer. It's telling us that there's already frames. There's a frame that exists over there. So the moment there's a frame that exists means now it's a video frame or an animation frame. And of course, you can add more video frames and whatnot. So means this layer is always going to be changing. Now this one won't be changing. It's going to be a constant still image. That's basically what it's saying. So one moment you add a layer, or you click this button on this layer, what happens is it becomes an animation video as well. But once it's an animation frame, you can't change it. So you know. Now let's get back to it. So as you can see, right, this is frame 0, right? Frame 0 over there. You can see frame 0. So that's frame 0. So right now our ball exists on frame 0. Frame 0, sorry. So now I'm gonna come to frame 6, right? I'm gonna duplicate that, and then I'm gonna grab it and put it right here at the bottom. Not anywhere far, but just here at the bottom. Right? Okay. So now we're indicating that our ball moved from the top to the bottom, from up there to down there. But let me turn off the onion skin so that you can see what is it that we're dealing with. Now, if I were to play this, you would see that it's gonna that the ball's gonna be going down. So you see, the ball is bouncing, but right now it's just sturdy and there's not much movement to it. There's not much fluidity. It's just moving from point A to B, right? So it's point A to B. So let's indicate. So this is frame A. So now I'm gonna write it in black. So that's gonna be A. Of course, that's gonna be B. So now we know that these are what? Our keyframes. These are our keyframes. So it's frame A and frame B. So that's our keyframe. Right? These are what we call our keyframes. Now, what we need to do, as you can see, there's a white gap over here. So these are what we call the in-betweens, or tweening. All right. Well, the process is called tweening, where you're adding in-betweens, but now we're adding in-betweens. So remember what I explained before in terms of animating from pose to pose. So you have the keyframes, and then you've got the extreme frames, and then there's the breakdowns. So it's the extreme poses, it's the key poses or the keyframes, the extreme frames, and the breakdowns. But anyway, let's get into it. So now what's going on is, now we're gonna add, now this is where the animation process begins. So now what we're gonna do is, since this ball is moving from from frame A to frame B, in between you need to add something. And now I'm gonna show you another trick. Just imagine how funny this is. I'm teaching you guys animation, but again at the same time, I'm what you call this thing, I'm involving other principles of animation to aid me over here. Yeah, because that's the thing. So now we're gonna create what we call a time chart. So a time chart is basically part of timing, but again, as you can see, all the laws of all the principles of animation, they bleed into each other. They always bleed into each other, literally. So this is basically our scale. It's the timing chart. So it's our scale that we want. So we're basically gonna determine that, okay, the speed in that this ball is gonna move in, or which speed will it be. So I'm sorry for getting too technical about these things. It's not that technical. If you're to ask me, it's very simple. It's just that this is basically part of the planning stage. So normally people, they just go straight, they just jump straight into it and they just animate. But over here, for it to have a fluid motion, I just want to show you how it's done, you know. So of course, then since this is the timing chart, I haven't yet added anything into it. I'm just gonna write A there and then write B. So what's going on is I'm just basically indicating that, okay, this is frame A and this is frame B over here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw lines in between. So these lines are basically the spacing of how fast the ball is gonna go. And again, it goes back to slow in and slow out. Yeah. So we're gonna begin. Of course, let me increase this because we need to know that this is the beginning and end. So now we're gonna add the ease in. We're just gonna make it into 3 frames, and then the ease, and then it gets faster. It gets faster, and then it'll slow down. Yeah, it'll get faster, and then it'll slow down when it gets here before it settles. Okay, so this is the chart that we're gonna follow. So now this is the ease in, and then the ease out. But now I'm going to demonstrate. Right now, let's animate. All right, so I'm just gonna, so just watch what I'm gonna do. Since I've already planted this, let me remove these letters so that our workflow can be easy without us having to worry about anything. I'm gonna remove that because now we already know that this is A and this is B, so I don't necessarily need to have A and B over here because I already have them on the chart. Yeah, I'm sorry for getting too technical. It's literally not that difficult because you can do this in your head. It's just normally if you're gonna be working with a team, you need to do something like this to indicate that, okay, no, this is ease in and ease out. You know, there's different ways, but then again, yeah. So now this ball of ours is a very soft ball, and I'll show you how. I'll show you what I mean if by saying it's a soft ball. So now I'm gonna come into this frame right here. Right now, watch closely. Right, I'm following this chart right here. course, let me take this and put it somewhere here because it's currently in my way. Now, oh, and if your question is how can you see multiple, what you call this thing, frames with the onion skin, you can just play around with these settings right here. But anyway, so that's number one. So we need 3 frames. So that's 1, 2, and then let's add number 3. Let's add number 3. Okay, now we're gonna jump straight, and then we're gonna come right here. 1, 2. Oh, just so you know, moment you just touch the drawing, the duplicate frame just already automatically activates, or the frame automatically adds itself. Okay. 3, then 1, 2, 3. Then it lands. Now, watch this. You see how smooth it is? Just check how smooth this animation is. It's because of this chart right here. So I followed this chart exactly. But now we're going to add some flavor now. We're going to spruce it up a bit. So now the ball's just falling gradually. It's falling gradually. There's nothing happening with it, right? It looks like a nice light ball, like a feather. But now let's spice it up and let's spruce it up and spice it up a bit. Let's add some character to the ball. So, which is where squash and stretch comes in, the actual lesson of today. All right, let's get into it. Now, simple. All we do is we just come through over here, and then we, of course, I'm gonna turn on the onion skin. As you can see, so you see these are the multiple frames from the future. Anyway, we're gonna skip that one. We're gonna tweak it a little bit. Tweak it a little more. No, actually, yeah, where it starts getting slow, that's when we tweak it. Turn that on. Where it gets a bit slow, that's when we tweak it. And we tweak it even more. Oh, yes, almost forgot. Okay, so we're gonna be here, right? That's 1, 2, 3. No, wait. 1. So we don't count this one. This is frame A. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3. So on frame number 3, that's when I'm gonna bring in the squash a bit. Okay. And then with this, you guys, you can just go crazy. Once again, enjoy. Just enjoy. Have fun. Have fun with this. Once again, the world is your oyster. Why do I always say that? I mean, that's what I was told once upon a time when I was young. Oh yes, we're gonna have to compensate for the ease in. All right. Oh no, yeah. Let's remember we're spicing it up. So that we're gonna put it right here. Now we're gonna squash it. So remember the ball was stretching. Now we're gonna squash it. And I know you guys are gonna be like, hey, Blizzard, what's going on with the last frame? Remember we're adding flavor. We're adding flavor, so we don't need this anymore. But cool. We can always, we're just messing with it. We're not gonna necessarily remove it. So now this is gonna be now our new frame P. Well, no, in fact, no. We'll keep our frame P. So now, since it's going back up, it needs to be here. All right. Then just copy this keyframe. I'm gonna place it right there, right? Right, and then we're gonna copy it again here and just gradually put it down, decrease it a bit. Of course, we're gonna put that down a bit and then squash it just a little bit because it doesn't have that much power like before. And then copy, and since there's two of those, I'm just gonna paste this one right here and have it come back there a bit. Help it come there a bit. Whoops. Have it come down a bit. And then have it go up a bit. Have it go up a bit. I mean down. All right. Now let's play the video. I'm gonna turn off the onion skin and let's play the video. I'm gonna turn this off, turn that off as well. Now let's play it and see what we got. See, now the ball's got much more character now. You see, it's squashing, it's stretching, right? So now we're indicating that, okay, now this ball is it doesn't have weight, it doesn't have that much weight. It's a very soft ball, it's fluid. So when it falls, right, it'll stretch, and then when it hits the ground it'll squash, and then it'll go back up, and then eventually till it reaches its final state, where it'll bounce a bit and then it will finally settle. So that's squash and stretch. That's squash and stretch. So as you can see, in today's lesson, we covered squash and stretch, right? We cover, which basically adds characteristic to the object, or the like to the object, in this case being the ball. And the character again in this video is the ball. That's number one. Two, we spoke about timing. I showed you about the timing, the space, like the timing of course, timing and spacing is married to each other. They're basically husband and wife. Why am I saying so? It's because with spacing, you have to space drawings. So the closer the closer they're stacked up together, the closer they're stacked up together, the slower they are. But the much more further apart they are, the faster they are. And that's basically timing. So slow, fast, that's time. And then spacing goes together with timing. So they are married, they're husband and wife. And then the next thing that we spoke about is, of course, the so it was what you call this thing, squash and stretch, spacing and timing. And then it was straight, and then it was pose to pose. We spoke about pose to pose. So as you can see, the first time I started was pose to pose, right? And then I added in my in between frames. And now when I was going into it and I was adjusting it, adding much more flavor and characteristic to the ball, that's when I started adding what? I started adding certain aspects to the ball. Like that's when I started going straight ahead now, stretching it, adjusting it, all that. So yes, this is basically how you achieve squash and stretch when it comes to animation. So it's not that hectic, All I did was I just drew a couple of things. I just drew the ground, I drew a guideline, I drew a timeline. I mean, I get a timing chart, and then I was done. Oh, and yeah, and then the ball, and then I was done. Then all I was doing the whole time was just pulling, pushing, just like I was just adjusting using the mouse. And then on top of that, I was after adjusting all of that, then I started copying and pasting here and there, and boom, there we are, animation. So that's this lesson of squash and stretch. So please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and ring the notification bell for my next uploads. I will see you guys in the next one.